Okay, our exit interview is with Joe Hafkey, who's moving from Richmond, Virginia to Austin, Texas in a couple of days to pursue comedy. I'm Chris Martin. Gwyneth Paltrow couldn't be here because she's doing The Pool Boy. It's August 23rd, 2011, and we're in a pocket park in the Fan District of Richmond, Virginia. I'm taping audio for my new podcast, Too Soon, and Silver Persinger is videotaping this first series of interviews with comics on Vimeo. Thanks to Joe for taking the time to talk to us, as he's in the midst of getting ready to move. Talk about comedy timing right after an earthquake, and with Hurricane Irene barreling up the East Coast. You can find Joe on Twitter at @Joe Hafkey. You can find the Too Soon Show on iTunes and at www.toosoonshow.com. Joe ran Cafe Diem Comedy Night for more than 2 years, Richmond's premier open mic. He's done spots at the Richmond Funny Bone, opened for Doug Stanhope at the F-Bomb Comedy Festival in Richmond, Virginia last September, put together shows with Sarah Schaefer and Ben Kronberg, and there's probably a lot of other stuff he's done that I'm not even aware of. So, where were you born?
I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, but I grew up here. I've been here since I was 2, so I don't remember anything else.
What was the reasoning behind going to VCU instead of going somewhere else?
I went to Hampton, Sydney for 2 years and got kicked out. Sorry, I just hit the microphone. I flunked out after 2 years and kind of washed back here to Richmond. And VCU was cheap and wouldn't take a flunky, so that's why I went there.
So what was your major at VCU?
I made it up. It was marketing for film.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that would make sense to move to LA then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if I were going to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so how would you characterize your comedy? It seems your comedy has evolved from social / satirical / observational to dealing with more personal issues. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I don't know how I would describe my comedy yet. I think I'm still figuring that out. I'm still trying to kind of find my voice. So, you know, that stuff at the beginning seemed like the right thing to do, and the more comfortable I've gotten on stage, the more I felt comfortable dealing with the shit that's going on in my head.
Well, I thought the earlier stuff worked pretty well.
I didn't think it didn't. Well, I'm ashamed to watch it now. I didn't think it didn't go well. I just, you know, you evolve.
Yeah. Well, I guess the stuff that you're doing now is more authentic, but I sort of feel like it's like Stephen Wright. I really don't know what the guy is like in person, and I don't really care. He doesn't really talk about, the stuff that's, his personal life. He's doing more,
Right.
whatever you want to call it, surrealistic or alt or whatever, but
You distracted by the dogs?
no, I'm distracted by the woman that seems to be, I guess you can't call it photobombing, call it what, camera hogging or whatever.
Is she in the frame?
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, people. It's like a big frickin' park.
Well, I mean,
go somewhere else.
We're really not that important.
I guess. I couldn't really compare you to anybody, which I think is a good thing. It's like some people, it's easy to say, like, well, they're riffing off of Sam Kinison or this person or that person. But I really couldn't characterize you as being like somebody, which I guess makes it hard to describe to somebody who hasn't seen you, but is good that, you're not imitating anybody or being overly influenced by anybody.
Well, that's good. I feel like my influence has come across, but I try not to let it.
So I want to ask who your influences are. I guess I ask who do you admire in comedy?
A lot of people. Obviously the first people that got me into comedy were, George Carlin. I remember sneaking downstairs to watch his specials on HBO, and that really changing my outlook on the world. And then, the people that kind of influenced me to want to start doing comedy were David Cross and Patton Oswalt, everybody on that Comedians of Comedy tour. I remember seeing that DVD and being kind of blown away. there's a lot of comedians that I really like and really admire. Mark Maron, Louis C.K. obviously, Rory Scovel. I love. I don't know. I could list comics all day, but Eugene Merman is great. I like. Oh man, it's hard. Somebody's calling me. I don't know. I really like narrative comics. I like people that are completely honest about who they are. Kyle Kinane's really good. Mike Birbiglia, those guys.
So some of those, I guess one of the things that struck me when I was at the Ben Kronberg show was that was a ping pong. That was the tennis ball, in case anybody was curious of what the wild sound was. When I remember at the Ben Kronberg show at Steady Sounds, looking around after the show, and it was like all the alt comics were there. And
do we have those in Richmond? I don't even know.
I don't know. Andrew Colson, Nathan Plummer, David Marie Garland, whatever. Is that sort of segregation inevitable? Are you going to have factions even in a small city like Richmond? Is it deplorable, or is it nothing worth worried about?
It's
natural.
Yeah, I mean it's
maybe?
just like anything else. You're going to have
Catholics
friends.
and Protestants.
I don't even think it's that divisive. I just think it's people you gravitate towards and people you're friends with. I don't think that there's cliques necessarily. There might be one clique, but even that, it's just people are friends with who they're friends with, and I think everybody gets along for the most part. It's just who you kind of feel comfortable with when you hang out. I don't necessarily think it's divided along styles of comedy.
Okay. What was the first show that you did?
I did a guest spot at the Funny Bone. That was my first set.
Was that when you were working there?
Yeah, I was. And I did about 3 sets there, and then I quit for about 8 months until I started Cafe Diem because I didn't really, I was frustrated by how hard it was to get stage time at the Funny Bone.
Did you start, was part of your response or part of your decision the fact that the Sticky Rice had folded, or did that have anything to do with it?
That didn't really have anything to do with it. That was sort of I don't even really consider that a comedy show. I just consider that a distraction for people that were drinking. And it just seemed, like we were getting in the way of them being loud and drunk, so.
Yeah, it seemed like there were a lot more people getting a drink on than there were people there
right.
for the comedy. But I just thought maybe when that folded, you might have said, well, I need to fill a hole here since there were, I guess there were no other open mics at the time.
No.
Really? So.
I mean, I felt there was a gap that needed to be filled in, that there wasn't a place where it was friendly for people to come and do comedy. And that was the good thing about Cafe Diem, is that there was nothing there on Monday nights except for 3 or 4 regular alcoholics that sat at the bar. So that allowed it to grow organically. And since they didn't really have anything to fill that void, I think for the first few months when it was slowly taking off, they were patient with it and sort of allowed it to grow.
They were still doing better business than they were before the show.
Exactly.
So what was your process of arriving at Cafe Diem? Did you just going around talking to restaurants, or was that the first one you stumbled across? Or?
I lived near it, and I had talked to one of the bartenders about it, and it seemed like a good place to me, just because it was, it already has kind of a stage, and it was known for music, but it was a natural environment for it. It was unpretentious. It was small, so it wouldn't take a lot of people to make it seem like there were a lot of people, filling the place. So it just seemed like a natural fit.
So we've got 3 comedians who've left or are in the process of leaving Richmond. Do you think that's going to have an impact on the scene? Is it going to sort of take a hit as a result?
It might. I don't know. I hope it doesn't. I feel like I'm leaving it at a good time. The past bringing down these comics from New York. They've all enjoyed themselves, and have gone back and mentioned it to their friends, and I think that helps legitimize it in a way. I know Scott Moran, who was here on Saturday, he is really close with Rory Scovel, and we talked about how badly we wanted to get him down here, and then the next day we got an inquiry from him for November. So the more shows like that can happen, and the more legitimate comics we can get to come down, I think will help sort of grow the scene, as long as local comics kind of step up their game to match that. I feel like there's a lot of amateur habits that hopefully seeing real comics will help people break.
Well, you want to get specific about amateur habits?
I don't know if I can do it without calling anybody out.
See, that's why Silver was talking about
you're
wait till the end, burn all your bridges.
Yeah, you
Call
know.
everybody out. No, I'm not. You know.
I mean, it's
just a
you know,
thought.
it's normal
I thought you
stuff.
could speak in terms of generalities, but
Well, you know, when people go on stage and they're like, "Well, these jokes are new, and so they're probably gonna suck, but here you go."
yeah, apologizing. Yeah.
That's, you know, you're apologizing for something you haven't even said yet, and that just sort of, you've already given everybody an excuse to not like what you're about to say. So
One thing I don't like, that has started to irk me, and I can say it because practically everybody does it. It's like when they introduce a comedian, they say he's a funny guy. Well,
yeah, that's true.
it's like, this is a spelling bee. This guy knows how to spell.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I don't know.
He's supposed to be. Yeah.
And then sometimes they aren't. So it's like, what?
Right.
And then, the 15th time somebody gets up and says he's a funny guy, your credibility maybe is not as good as...
That's probably an offspring of the fact that we're in a town where nobody has any credits. So what else are you going to say?
Exactly. Or they don't know the person. It's like,
That's true.
I've been introduced like people who don't know me, and they say he's a funny guy. Well, I don't know, by reputation or osmosis, or
Really giving you a compliment.
it's tattooed on my forehead. I mean, the guy doesn't know me. He had never met me before he said that. So that was one of the things that I heard, was that you were sort of debating whether to leave this year or wait a year and leave. So how about telling us what's the thought process in deciding to leave now rather than wait another year?
I got really... I just started feeling really bored here. And I got kind of depressed. You know, I've been telling myself I'm going to move as soon as I graduated college, since I started college. And I just was feeling kind of uninspired. And I also feel like there's a lot I want to accomplish in comedy, and I've started hitting the wall here where I can't do it. You know, it's really hard to work on material, and the availability of stage time is so sporadic. You know, one week you'll be doing 4 shows, and then the next week you might not have any, or you'll have 1, and it's really hard to write something new and then work on it, but have to wait a week and a half to do it, because you kind of forget the momentum of what you were thinking about, and what worked and what didn't. So I felt like it was going to hurt me to stick around here. It would hurt my growth or stunt it, and I might get into some bad habits, and I just don't want to do that. I also just want to be challenged, and you know, if my goal is to do this, then I just need to go do it.
So what's the reasoning behind Austin?
It's a really cool scene. There's a lot of there's a lot of really good shows. There's a lot of really good comics. You know, when I was there in February, I just remember being like, holy shit, these people are way funnier and way better than almost anybody in Richmond, and they work harder at it. Austin's also a city that kind of respects, they're more open to creativity than Richmond is. I feel like Richmond is kind of standoffish towards creative things in general, but especially comedy. It's not a very open scene for it, or an open city for it, and it gets treated with a little bit of spite. And Austin's not like that. There's a lot of people that are, I mean, there's probably 65 comics there.
Whoa.
And there's a lot of, there's working comics, there's people, you can get industry exposure once a year there. They have the Funniest Person in Austin contest, which is a pretty legit contest. So I don't know, it's just, and there's mics almost every single night of the week. and there's paid rooms for local comics, and it's just a better place to go and work on the craft.
Well, this is one of the internal questions that seems to rage, is whether you go directly to a larger city like New York or LA, or go to an intermediate city. And obviously, you've supplied your answer.
Yeah.
But do you think that makes better sense than moving directly to Los Angeles or New York?
For me, it does. I don't. It depends on who you are, I guess. But I think that you shouldn't go somewhere where you're expected to be at a certain level if you're not there yet. And I think New York is a little different. You can go there and still grow. But if you go to LA, the impression I've gotten is that you should really be on top of your shit and ready to be seen by people that are going to judge you, and you can really set yourself back if you're not ready for that. So I would rather, go somewhere where I can work hard and hopefully be at a certain level. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't want to go somewhere before I feel that I can compete on a par with those people.
Yeah, that seems to be Judy Carter's feeling, is that first impressions are a killer. So if you're not that good and you show up in LA.
Which book did she write? I don't remember.
No, she's written two of them.
Okay.
But the idea being that once you show up and they see you, then that's the impression that they have in their mind, and they're not going to get that out of their head. So it's like you better be good.
Yeah, it
when
can
they
take
see
you a while to change that perception.
So Blake Midget, when he came here, returned recently, didn't seem like he was, I don't know what the word would be, discouraged, or didn't feel like he'd done as much as he wanted to in the past year in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know whether that's too many temptations for Blake. Maybe moving to like the party capital of the Southwest might not have been a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe he should have moved to like Mennonite country or something in terms of like not getting
distracted.
Distracted.
Yeah, he has, and he's.
I mean, I don't know whether he really believes that or is just saying that to sort of say that or whatever. But
well, I know he did. I think he hadn't been on stage in a month when he came to Richmond, and I know there's extenuating circumstances around that.
Well, yeah, if you're in the hospital, that tends to excuse your.
Yeah, but I think when I went to see him, he hadn't been on stage in like a month. So I don't know. I didn't really get a chance to talk to him about it.
Maybe waxing and waning.
Yeah.
Well.
I mean, it's an intimidating city. There's a lot of really good comics, and it's really hard to rise to the top there. So, it can be a sort of a, I would imagine it would be hard to go there and being as revered and on top as Blake was here, and then going there and being, not right on the bottom, but pretty close to it. That's got to be a mind fuck.
Yeah, the analogy I use is like people go to the governor's school, and then they go to Harvard. They're the valedictorian at the governor's school, and then they go to Harvard, and they're like, everybody's a valedictorian.
Yeah,
it's
of their governor's school. Yeah, and you gotta. I mean, you sort of just have to, and that's what I'm excited about and nervous about.
Because of the challenge.
Yeah, you've got to completely prove yourself to a whole new group of people and be better than you were when you left where you're coming from.
Or up your game.
Yeah.
Or force you to up your game.
Yeah.
Man.
Up the
cicadas. All we need now is for a flock of purple martins to drop on us.
Another earthquake, maybe.
Yeah. So, speaking of waxing and waning, I was thinking back at the more than 2 years at Cafe Diem. It seems like there's been a fair amount of turnover since you started. People that started then are no longer on the scene for whatever reasons. Do you have any thoughts on that? Why people drop out, or why some people stick to it and some people don't?
It's not for everybody, man. Comedy's not for everybody. It's tough. And
dying is easy, comedy is hard.
Yeah. I don't know, and it's, it requires a lot of investment, and I'm sure there comes a point if you're trying to do, I don't know, there's a lot that goes into it. If you're trying to have a legitimate job and you're just going to do comedy every night and your shit's popping up online and you're saying things that your job wouldn't appreciate you saying, and you've got to make a choice, and I'm sure that factors in. I'm sure a lot of people just get tired of it. There's a lot of for as small as Richmond is, there's a lot of people that have egos, and I'm sure it will kind of make people feel ostracized. But it's like I said, it's just not for everybody. So I think people go into comedy and think it's going to be easy, and then they come face to face with the reality that it's not, and it's probably not what they expected.
Doesn't seem like you have a lot of ego, or is that just simply self-loathing?
It's probably self-loathing.
Okay.
I have an ego. I don't know.
But you don't have
It comes across in
you don't have enormous ego.
Yeah, it comes across in
It's
awkward
not
ways.
Joe Hafkey's Cafe Diem.
Right.
You don't put your name out there all the time.
Right. Well, yeah, I think it's partially self-loathing.
It seems like you've been more like, this is the institution, Cafe Diem, and like I was here and now.
I mean, I don't mind getting credit for it starting, but
Yeah.
I also...
But now Bill Metzger's going to run it. It's
Yeah.
sort of like it's still Cafe Diem.
Yeah, I mean, my name will always be attached to it. People will always know who started it, but I know where I stand in comedy, and that's nowhere. So for me to run around putting my name on things, and it's self-serving, and it actually doesn't really serve yourself at all. It just makes you look like an egotistical prick. So I'm not going to do that.
Well, I read an article in Marie Claire of all places, and it said actually it probably helps to be an egotistical prick because all the rejection just kind of bounces off people.
Yeah.
And they just keep going. They suck, but they don't care.
Yeah.
And they just keep doing it.
But what do you learn?
Eventually,
What do you learn if you're like that? Honestly.
well, that could be. I'm just telling you what somebody said in this
Yeah.
article.
Yeah.
Was that it was an article about women in comedy, and one of the explanations for why there are more men in comedy than there are women is because men have that defensive mechanism, like I suck, but yeah, I had fun or whatever, and they keep going, and women maybe are less able to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I get pretty down on myself when I don't do well.
You seem to have stayed focused on stand-up. You've never done any sketch or improv or like done videos or anything like that. Is that true?
Yeah. I need to branch out in that. I've never really felt like it would be, this airplane gonna fuck your sound up.
Airplanes, cicadas.
This is not to shit on anybody here. I just have never felt the point to doing it here. I probably should have been doing improv or should have been doing sketches here just to have the first failures that inevitably happen, but I've just never felt inspired to do it here. I need to change that because I need to branch out, but yeah, it just hasn't really crossed my mind to do it here. I just like stand-up a lot.
You went from being a skeptic about Twitter to using it now that you've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
Are you still a skeptic or don't care or
I mean,
has its uses? Or?
It's kind of fun. I go through periods where I get really annoyed and I don't tweet anything, and then I'll tweet a few fart jokes, and it's fun. It's just a throwaway thought thing. I have a few followers now, which is fine, I guess. But it is what it is. It's a fun way to interact with people. You can share random thoughts, but it's not. I don't think it's that important. But then again, it is because you're kind of expected to if you do comedy.
Seems like Ben Kronberg uses it sort of like his first drafts or something.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that. I don't know him.
He writes a lot of jokes on there.
Just from that show, it seemed like he
It
was
fits his
using
style really well, though, because he's cerebral and he tells a lot of one-liners. For me, it wouldn't be this. It's not the same. It might I might tweet an idea that I turn into something longer later, but he's a different kind of comic.
Yeah, you sure as hell can't tell stories on Twitter.
No, you can't.
So you have any thoughts on social media and comedy in general?
I think it's great for it. I think it's helped comedy a lot. I think part of the reason why there's kind of a boom right now is because comics, niche comics have been able to find their audience, and their audience has been able to seek them out a lot easier than in the past. It kind of eliminates a lot of the gatekeepers. If you have something funny, you can put it out there really easily. There's not really anything getting in the way. So it's a good thing for it.
I guess the biggest success story I've heard about was Dane Cook used MySpace back in the day, apparently, to
Yeah.
great success.
Well, that's probably not a good thing.
Yeah, well, I'm not talking about the quality of comedy. I'm just
Yeah.
talking about using social media
Yeah.
to promote careers.
Well, and it's also just that, I mean, for people that are, way more successful than you or I or anybody else in Richmond, it's a good way for them to be able to interact with fans.
Stay in touch.
Yeah, and they don't have to be, it's impersonal enough that they don't have to share too much of their time or whatever. It can be a brief thing, but I'm sure it helps make the fans feel like they're a part of the process.
So what would be your comedy goal? And one of the things you mentioned was that you were going to spend 2 years in Austin and then move to LA. Are you still thinking along those lines? Or?
Yeah, LA or New York. I'm actually leaning towards New York just because...
Because back then, this was like
Yeah.
a couple months ago.
Well,
you're talking about LA.
Yeah, I don't know. LA is a lot to deal with. And I want to live in New York at some point in my life, and I'd rather do it while I'm young than and I can actually enjoy it. LA is just it's a fucking hassle. I've lived there before for like 4 months, and you have to drive an hour to go everywhere, and it's just not the same. New York has like a bunch of 5 or 6 different local or more localized scenes. Talking to Scott Moran about it, actually, and Sarah about it, it seemed like you don't have to go through the club scene anymore and get beaten down through that and have to do bringer shows. So there, you can work your way up there a little bit more. I don't know if 2 years is all I'm going to spend in Austin, but I definitely don't want to get stuck there. So
Yeah, I wonder about Texas in general. I mean, it just seems like your politics are progressive. Of course, that might be a great source of material for you.
yeah,
I mean, it's just like Richmond pisses me off, but it gives me something to talk about. And Texas might, I don't think Austin will necessarily. Probably when you get to Austin, you say, what took me so long?
yeah,
I should have transferred there or something.
yeah.
But I think Texas in general, with know-nothings like Rick Perry or whatever, would probably get on your nerves. But then again, that gives you something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, but those people are always going to get on my nerves no matter where I am. So it'll be interesting to be there in the middle of it. But Austin's not. It's pretty isolated from the insanity. So whenever I drive through Texas, I'll probably want to kill somebody. But
Well, they'll probably want to kill you.
Yeah, well, it'll be mutual. It'll be fine. But they'll have a gun, so I'm probably fucked.
So, let's see. Lost my train of thought here. Do you see yourself doing anything? Do you want to stick with stand-up comedy, or would you like to do something else? Would you like to do sitcoms or movies or whatever?
I'd like to branch out. I don't know about sitcoms. I don't know.
Writing for people?
Writing would be fun. I don't know about if I could write for another comic. But
Yeah, I don't know, like writing 35 jokes a day for David Letterman or Jimmy Fallon or whatever. I'm sure the pay's great, but I don't know, like sitting in a room, trying to like crank out 35 jokes a day would seem to me.
it seemed appealing to me
You earn
recently,
your money.
actually. Yeah, I don't know. It seems kind of fun because it's just throwaway jokes, and I don't know. I've actually been experimenting or thinking of just buying a newspaper every day and trying to write 10 jokes about it, just seeing where that gets me.
Yeah, that's one of Judy Carter's exercises.
But
I recommend doing.
yeah, I'd like to branch out. I don't know exactly where yet. I'd like to kind of see where the road takes me. But I definitely don't want to be a guy that pigeonholes himself in only doing stand-up, because I don't think that takes a while for that to really pay off.
Yeah, that's in her book, The Stand-Up Comedy Bible. Judy Carter says, diversify. So what's the longest set that you've ever done?
40, I think I did 40 minutes once, and I did 35 at Bottoms Up. Yeah.
Right. That was the Freak Show, RVA Freak Show?
Yeah.
With David Morgana?
Yeah, it was a fun show.
Yeah, I heard it went really well.
Yeah.
So what would you consider to be your biggest triumph so far?
Cafe Diem, absolutely.
Just the sum total of achievement?
Yeah, and I mean that sort of sparked the Richmond scene, sparked up around that. So yeah, that would definitely be, and especially recently being able to transition it and have some special shows where people actually turn out and not just make it an open mic, but sort of building it up to something more than that. I'm really proud of being able to do that here.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why I said I felt like you were just getting started, in the sense that you were starting to morph or molt or transmogrify or whatever from just doing open mic. You were doing other stuff,
Yeah.
like shows. That's one thing though that's kind of that I was thinking about, was that Cafe Diem led to I guess Aztec Row, City Dogs, Fallout, McCormick's.
Yeah.
And 2 of those, I guess, are no longer with us, but 3 of those are still
3 of those are
still going strong. But it doesn't seem like comedy shows have been able to get that kind of shelf life, because like they were doing things at the Camel, and that seems to have gone away. And it seems like Strange
I
Matters.
wish they did it more at the Camel. I think that'd be great.
Strange Matters is no longer, like, they did about 6 shows and then that kind of went away.
Yeah.
And other than 955, it seems like shows have sort of come and gone, but they haven't really, like stuck around for a long time.
Yeah.
You got any thoughts on why that is, or why open mics keep going but the shows don't? Or?
Well, I mean, there are
any number of explanations, like the show at New York Deli got killed because somebody used the N-word at the last show.
Nobody used the N-word at the last show. It's just funny.
Maybe that was their
I
excuse.
think somebody said the N-word.
That was their excuse.
I don't think the staff really liked it very much. I think that's why they killed it.
You were at that show, right?
Yeah, I was at that show.
So what is just they just didn't like the show?
Well, like a lot of their staff comes in and drinks on Sundays, and they're always loud and really disrespectful of what's going on. So it just seems like they could really care less.
Okay.
And Brian Mann I think he was in over his head a little bit with that room. Just seeing he doesn't have a lot of contacts or people that he associates with that would come out to a comedy show. So I think that probably had a lot to do with it as well. Really that's sort of what would be my point, is with any show, is that it really depends on who's running it and the mentality they have. It also has to do with the place that it's being run at. McCormick's started kind of crappy, but it's actually started taking off now, and they're getting bigger crowds each week. And I think that's, as much to do with Jesse and Andrew. They get it, and they're making it a pretty open place to come and do comedy for the comedians. But it's also McCormick's is letting them do that. And they've not shut it out. There are a lot of places after a month of doing that and nobody really showing up, they would have been like, well, screw this, what's the point? So I think that has a lot to do with it. I think the Camel would probably do it again. I just think that there's nobody who is really taking it on, but I might not know the whole story there.
Yeah, I don't know the story on. All I know is what Brian Mann told me, which was that the new manager told him that it was because somebody used the N-word. But that may have just been an excuse to stop it. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
and I also think a lot of it comes down on the comedians too. If you want showcase rooms, then step up your material and make it worthwhile for people to come out. Part of the attraction of the open mics is that there's a lot of good people and there's a lot of really bad people, and it's all in small doses. But with the showcases, you can get people that are do well in 5-minute sets, but when you give them 12 minutes, they're out of their league and they sort of lose it. So, it's up to those people to work at it and, make it worthwhile for these places and make it worthwhile for people to come out.
Well, with McCormick's, it's like they get 25 comedians to come out. That's like, or McCormick's, that's like they're dealing with this whole issue of like people getting scared away from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So like 25 people show up. That's probably 25 people they weren't going to have.
Yeah.
So that works for them.
Yeah.
So that's,
I mean, that's sort of the best way to get.
Even if no audience shows up, that's still 25 people.
I mean, that's sort of the through line for
or
any
some of them are
successful
drinking
club.
water.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's the successful through line for any comedy show is it's a place that wasn't going to have anything anyway. So, comedy is sort of, yeah, why not? And then they just give it enough time to foster. Because usually it will. It's just a matter of being patient.
So are there any lessons that you learned from like more than 2 years of putting on an open mic? Is there something, or are there things that people need to know about open mics, the things to do correctly to make them succeed?
Make them creatively friendly, make them welcoming to comics. I mean, that's the most important thing, is what's on the stage. So you want comics to feel like it's a comfortable place to come and do time. And that's really the most important thing. And then, finding a venue that's cool with you having a comedy show, because I think a lot of people have illusions about what that means. So managing their expectations and also making it a place where comedians feel comfortable coming.
So are there any lessons that you've learned from putting on the shows that you have that you were starting to do? Is there any takeaway lessons from that?
I mean, there's really specific lessons. I don't think that anybody would be interested in those, but
I'm not talking about people.
No. I mean, it's just they're specific, how to book a comic type things. If that's not that interesting.
Well, I think this is kind of insider stuff. I'd be interested. I don't.
I mean,
I don't
the
give
way
a
we
rat's ass about the 15 other people that are going to listen to it. I'd be interested.
Basically what we try to do is find, with Sarah, obviously she lives in town, or her family lives in town, so it's
she
sort of
has a fan base already.
Well, she has that, and it's also, she's got a free place to stay, so that's not that hard to bring her down. But a lot of it is catching people. Cafe Diem's not going to offer a comic as much money as a club or as much money as a show they might do in a bigger city, but one of the things you can do is tie it on to a tour they're already doing. So if you know a comic is going to be around North Carolina or DC, and you know about when, and you see an empty day in their calendar, you can say, well, hey, come here. It's a little less money, but it's an open night you have. It's a fun room. You don't have to be as polished as you would be at a theater show or whatever, and you can come here and do it. So that's been the way that we've tried to go about it, and we came really close to getting Tig Notaro. I think that she backed out at the last minute, and I think that was mostly because her record came out the next day, so they probably didn't want her to be doing a smaller show like that when she could probably be cashing in somewhere bigger. And also a lot of comedians will come and do a show if it pays money and it's a fun room, and that's the reputation Cafe Diem has. So make it a fun environment, and they're going to tell their friends that it was a good time, and so then that word gets out. Comedy's a pretty small community, and word spreads pretty quick that a room is fun.
Yeah, that would have been the feather in the cap if you could have got Notaro.
Yeah. Oh well.
So, in terms of tracking back to the open mic, you switched from a first come, and this is inside baseball, but I don't give a rat's ass anyway. You switched from a first come first serve basis to like having people email in a week before.
Yeah.
What was the reasoning behind that? What was the rationale?
It was a
behind
clusterfuck. Basically, the night of the show, you get people showing up, and there was times when there was like 35 comics, and I felt bad about turning anybody away, so I just let 35 comics go on, and that's a lot to ask an audience to sit through. I mean, 25 is a lot to ask any audience to sit through. So with the email thing, first of all, it allowed me to do the list ahead of time, which saves me a lot of hassle, because in addition to running the show, I'm still trying to treat it as an open mic and work on my material. So if I'm distracted by what's going on with comedians and who's there and who's not and who signed up ahead of time and who asked me to sign them up but isn't there yet, it's just a lot of things to be managing before I'm actually going to go on stage. And it also, I think it helps comedians tell their friends about it. They know they're going to go on stage. It gives it sort of I don't want to say next level, but it gives it a little bit of weight. So, they'll tell their friends, like, hey, I'm on Cafe Diem, come out to it and see it. And it also makes it easier to, when people show up and they're, show up late, it makes it a lot easier to be like, no, I'm sorry, all the sign-up's done ahead of time. You can't show up at 9 o'clock on the night of the show and get a spot. So there were a lot of reasons, but mainly it was to make it less of a headache for me. And it also, I think it helps comics. It helps them plan it out, what their week is like, what that Monday is going to be like.
So when you've got those names, you've got those 25 names, what's your reasoning or rationale? How do you arrange people? It's not. I assume it's not first come first served in terms of email. So you're like putting certain people here, certain people there, and what's your reasoning behind doing that?
Well, the sign up
any kind of general principles that you're
the sign up
observing?
still is first come first served. So.
Yeah, in terms of the 25 and then it's cut off or whatever. Then you've got 5.
Well, my reasoning was I would.
Like some people go here, some people go there. Who works at a certain period of the
Well,
night?
if a new person signs up,
is there some kind of rhythm that you're trying to establish?
If a new person signs up, I'm probably going to put them later in the show because they're more apt to be bringing a lot of people, and I'm going to exploit that. Yeah. If I know somebody's newer, I try and pace, people that don't have as much experience. I'll kind of put them in a point where I pace it a little bit, and then I try and have a good spot. After about comedian 9 or 10, I try and have a good 8 or 9 comics where everybody I know I've seen them do well, and I know they're a pretty good comic because I do want there to be a part of the show that's really good, and usually around spot 10 is when the crowd is at its biggest. So I want the biggest crowd to see the best show so that they'll tell somebody else that'll come back. So I try to be fair and swap it around, but at the same time, certain comedians are always going to go in the sweet spot of the show because they've earned it with what they do on stage.
Aside from open mics, what do you think is the ideal length for a show?
I would say 2 hours tops. An hour and a half is really ideal, but 2 hours tops. Really depends on the room and the environment.
Then after that, it's comedy fatigue. Huh?
Yeah. Well, people just lose interest. It's hard.
It's hard to sustain.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that you talked about, and other people have talked about, is and using the example of Laughing Skull, that you felt maybe in Richmond there was a market for like a 75-seat theater.
Yeah, I definitely do.
That you might be able to, that you'd be able to get big names to come to because of the reputation of the room. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that they even have a festival that they run.
Yeah, I don't know much about their festival.
Well, I just looked them up after you mentioned. I'd heard of them before. I knew that David Cross performed there, but I just went to their website and they had they were promoting the festival.
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I don't know. Those satellite festivals seem like a scam to me, so I usually try and not really look into them.
Okay.
What's up, dude?
Let's see. Talk about Laughing Skull. Okay. I guess we'll get back down more to specifics of comedy. How important do you think is? We asked about your biggest triumph, but what do you think was your biggest disaster?
Disaster?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of comedians seem to relish war stories or horror stories. Maybe you're not one of them, but there seems to be a masochistic streak in comedians that relishes talking about the time they were in West Buttfuck, Wyoming, and the audience was like three bikers and blah,
yeah,
blah, blah.
I've had nightmare shows. I don't know. What do I count them as failures? I don't know. There was one New York Deli show where I feel like every New York Deli show is like that though. I don't know. There's just certain rooms where you go on stage and nobody could give a shit less that you're there, but it's still a full crowd, and they're just either they've all decided that they're not laughing at anybody, or they're just loud and drunk, and you're basically thing on stage that's making noise that sometimes they yell at, and that's happened a couple times. I don't know. There's a lot of nightmare stories.
I wonder whether there's like I don't go out to music events anymore because I have tinnitus, but I wonder if like they're going to those because it's like people talk during music shows, so then they think they can talk during comedy shows.
I think that has a lot to do with it. Richmond, this is not to sound elitist, but Richmond has sort of an unsophisticated audience as far as comedy. They don't really know how to act at a show, and so I think that contributes a lot to it. I also think people just don't give a shit. A lot of times these shows are happening at bars where the people that are there weren't necessarily there to see comedy. They were just going to a bar. So
you just have
you
to
can't
stumble
really
across it.
Yeah, and in that situation, it's really hard to fault people because that would be annoying.
Well, yeah, like that guy at Blake's show at Strange Matters, the one that kept.
Yeah, God, that was awful.
I don't know. He might actually been there on purpose, which is even more frightening. Whatever. So, how important is likability?
I mean, it's very important. I don't think anybody's going to laugh at you if they don't like you on some level.
Okay. How about clean versus blue? I would characterize you as sort of being in the middle on that. In terms of like working.
I think you should be able to tailor what you're saying to a crowd as far as how far you go, but I don't really believe in working clean per se. If it's not you, if you work clean and that's who you are, then that's fine. But I think that the notion of working clean on one show and then the next show working blue is sort of hacky and inauthentic.
So, are there any topics that you consider off limits?
No.
Okay. One of the things that you brought up a while ago was comedy as discomfort.
I think
This was back at the McCormick's, I think, a while ago. Like you were bringing up some subject matter, and maybe you might have felt some people feel uncomfortable, and you mentioned.
Well, that is what I mean. I've kind of gotten obsessed with the idea of comedy as tension and the build-up of tension and then release of the tension, and it almost doesn't matter what you say to build the tension up as long as you give if you give them a release, then everybody's gonna laugh, and so. Yeah, a lot of comedy is discomfort, or at least not necessarily. I don't know if discomfort's the right word, but tension, I think, is the good word. That's why I'm using it.
Yeah, when you talk about tension, you're talking about like.
Well, you build up to a moment. You can use silence to build tension, and then you say something, and it releases that awkwardness or whatever form of tension it is.
When I say tension, I mean like stretching sort of type tension, or maybe not.
I mean, you can tell when a room is tense. You can tell it's palpable, and it's sort of your job as a comic to go in and find a way to cut through that and release it.
So, what do you think of Ralphie May's statement that people with beards can't do stand-up?
I have no idea what to make of that. I think there's probably a lot of examples that can prove him wrong.
Somebody threw out Zach Galifianakis, and then he proceeded to say that Zach folds after 25 minutes.
Okay. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of comedians that have had beards that did all right.
I think Louis C.K.'s done all right.
Yeah. Maron's done all right for himself.
Dave Attell.
Dave Attell's done all right for himself. I think Carlin had a beard at one point.
I think he had a beard for a lot of it.
Yeah.
And also, it's like Ralphie's taking acting classes, and like Zach Galifianakis is like in the #1 comedy hit of the summer.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I think that's probably just resentment on Ralphie May's part.
Professional jealousy.
Yeah.
So what about comedy as neurosis? Do you think comedians are more dysfunctional than the general population?
Yep.
Okay. That's a short, sweet answer.
I mean, there's not really any need to elaborate on it.
What about comedians as addicts? Addicted to cigarettes, food, alcohol, drugs, sex? for example, you've taken up smoking
Yeah.
again.
Well, I just took a break.
Okay. Now, you started back up when you were back out in Austin, right?
Yeah.
Sitting out on those patios.
Yeah, well,
Too
those
much temptation.
goddamn hipsters make it look so fun.
Okay. Well, so what is it? Just like people are attracted to people with addictive personalities are attracted to stand-up, or vice versa? Which comes first, chicken or the egg?
I don't think that you have to have an addictive personality to be attracted to stand-up. I think that being attracted to stand-up comes from a need to be liked, and a need to feel the control who's laughing at you and why. But I think that it is addicting. I think that's why people stick with it. So a lot of the people that are addictive in nature have demons that are outside of stand-up that cause them to be addicted. I don't think they necessarily go hand in hand, though they do a lot.
So what about your interest in covering wars? You think that's looking for a bigger adrenaline rush than stand-up, or
Well, that was also
is that
just
a demon, or
or me having too much to drink and thinking it would be fun.
well, you just missed out on another big one in Libya, but I'm sure another one will come along.
Yeah, there's always one.
And so you've also talked about having suicidal thoughts on stage. Is that?
Did I? When did I do
Yeah,
that?
you mentioned that one night.
When was that?
I don't know. I think it was just like fairly recently.
I don't ever really think about.
Is that just
well,
sort of?
I do.
Is
but
that thrown out to kind of provoke people, or is that coming from a genuine?
I mean, if you throw out suicide,
well,
it's a lot
everybody has
easier to.
suicidal thoughts. I
Yeah.
think at some point.
It's a lot easier
not-
to make somebody laugh after you've said, "Hey, I want to kill myself," and then bring it back with something else. But I don't know. I was probably just fucking around.
Okay.
I don't think I would
Just
be
being
a comic.
provocative.
Yeah. That was in an open mic for sure, right?
Yep.
That was at McCormick's, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you've gotten less structured lately. You're doing, I don't want to say improv because that means something else in comedy, but it seems like you're ad-libbing more. You're more just sort of working things out rather than going by a script. Is that
Well,
fair,
I think
or-
it's fair. I think a lot of times when you're doing a show like McCormick's or anything, it feels weird to go on stage and be really scripted, and I think you can get a lot more out of going up there and having an idea of what you want to say, but then seeing what happens.
You also talked about this was sort of going back to Cafe Diem. Talk about a creative platform. It seems like Cafe Diem has been friendly to stuff that maybe isn't strictly stand-up, but more performance art. Guys like Mike Shea, Brown Found the Clown. It seems like Cafe Diem's been friendly to that, showcased that, or tried to work with that.
Yeah. What's the question? I don't know.
It's more made his observation more than a
Yeah.
question.
It's anybody can sign up. It's his time to do what he wants with it. I'm not going to tell him he can't. Although I've had to tell him he can't do things on stage before.
Yeah, it's like violates fire codes,
Well,
health
that one-
codes,
he tried to
obscenity laws.
He tried to break those stink bombs on stage, and I got really mad about that because that's not.
That's hard to clean up.
Yeah, it's not even funny, and it's also just kind of a fuck you to the place that's let you be weird on stage for the past 2 years. That's going to clear that bar out, kind of ruin it for the rest of the night. So
It didn't work.
thankfully,
That's what he told me.
Yeah, thankfully.
Well, I hate to confess, I had no idea that he was going to do that. I gave him to him as a birthday present. I thought he'd let him off in a car.
I'm glad
or
you bought
something.
cheap ones then.
Yeah, they were like cost $3 for $1. It's like how
Yeah.
cheap. You can't get any cheaper than that.
Yeah.
It's like there's probably some 12-year-old in Guangdong, China that's like filling these things with rotten eggs.
Yeah.
Whatever. You can't get any cheaper than that. So you've talked about your relationship on stage, and one of the consequences of you leaving Austin is you guys are breaking up. And I guess I would call you guys the Jack and Jackie Kennedy of Richmond comedy. Or if I wanted to be mean, the Alan Tipper Gore of comedy. But it seems like stand-up comedy is hard on relationship, but yet you guys have been together for several years,
Mm-hmm.
which in comedian or dog years is like a lifetime. So, you know, what's the secret behind that? It's just like you guys are more normal than everybody else, or just had a good thing going that you were able to, even though you're out there, you know, performing on a regular basis. And
I think we had a good thing going, and I think that if I had been in another city doing it every night, I think it would have put a lot more stress on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it already created a lot of strain when you have to be out, you know, on a Wednesday night until 12:30 or 1 in the morning doing stand-up. That puts a lot of strain on it. So, and that's ultimately the reason why we're going our separate ways, is because, you know, going to do comedy.
And it seems also like she was very supportive, though, because I mean,
She was. It was
like
great.
She went.
Yeah.
I think like the first year at Cafe Diem, she was there every time.
Mhm.
It's like, whoa, nobody else does that.
Yeah.
I mean, wives don't do that.
Yeah, no, she was really
it was
supportive.
like and she still came a lot during the second year too.
Yeah,
So that was really cool.
yeah.
Okay. So what's your rehearsal process like? What's your writing process? I guess I'll ask that first. Is it structured, or is it just sort of like when it comes into your head? Is it serendipity, or is it like sort of sitting there and like beads of blood coming out of your forehead? And, you know, what's that
It
like?
depends. It used to be just sort of serendipitous, but now I try to generate more materials. Sometimes I'll be thinking about one thing for a long time, and I'll obsess over it until I can find something that I think is funny about it. And it depends on what the material is, about how structured I am with the writing. If it's a lot of times I like to know where I want to go, and then the first few times I say it, let that happen organically and sort of talk through it. Other times, if it's more complicated, I like to actually write everything out. So it depends on what the material is.
So when you write it out, do you write it out in a notebook or a computer?
Yeah, I write it down by hand.
Okay.
I don't like typing.
And you seem to be pretty comfortable on stage. Where does that come from?
Just doing it a lot.
Did you ever have stage fright in the beginning?
Yeah, I still do.
Just doesn't show.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just gotten better at managing it.
Yeah, I read a book on public speaking, and one of the things in the book, or maybe more accurately, I skimmed a book on public speaking. One of the things it says in that book is, from the inside, it looks like, you know, it's like people are less aware of stage fright on the outside than they are from like the person standing on the stage. So
Yeah.
it's like
That's very true.
that's a perception people have that, oh, it must be obvious, but it's not. As much as anyone in Richmond, you're a student of comedy. This is another one of those perennial arguments that goes on. What's the best way to learn comedy? Books, classes, boot camps, getting up on stage, a mixture of all of those, or just doing it, practicing it? Are you in the Stanhope camp? Or
Yeah, I mean, I would say that. I think doing it is the best way. Because doing it gives you access to people that do it, and then, you know, whatever they know passes on to you. I don't think you can learn much from a class. I definitely don't think going to stand-up boot camp is going to make you a comic. And I don't think reading a book is going to make you a comic. I don't think... Well, stand-up boot camp, from what I've heard, might hurt, but... I don't think reading a book is going to hurt you, but it's, you know, if you read a book, you're not a stand-up comedian just because you read the book. You have to do it. And you learn a hell of a lot more from being on stage and doing it than you ever would reading.
yeah, the analogy I use is there are a lot of people who buy books on dieting, but
Yeah.
that you can buy all the books on dieting. They're somehow convinced that's going to make them lose weight, but of course it doesn't. You listen to podcasts. WTF is the one that I've heard you mention the most.
Yeah.
So what's the? I don't listen to it as much as you do. I just basically sort of drop in when there's somebody that I'm interested in. Do you learn? I never get the impression that he talks that much about technique. So what for you is the interest or the reward, the payoff for listening to WTF?
Well, you learn a lot about technique just by hearing how comedians think. But also, it's just, I mean, comedians are interesting people to me, especially people that have made it their life. And one of the reasons I like that podcast, I mean, I like a lot of podcasts, but that one in particular is because Maron's he's a really good interviewer. He brings things out of people that I don't think they would necessarily be open to bringing out. And they do talk about what they went through to make it to where they are, so you can learn a lot of lessons about what to do and what not to do from listening to, other people. And, I feel really fucking lucky that we live in a time where there's so many different podcasts and so many different ways to hear comedians talk about the craft and, how to go through it and how to manage it. So I feel like, they're interesting, and then on another level, it's like I'd be an idiot not to if I want to do this for a career, to not listen to these people.
Yeah, I guess the thing that I consider somewhat off-putting is there's kind of a formula that goes to it. It's like, well, we were friends in 1982, and then you stole some coke from me, and then you got more successful than me, and it's sort of but a lot of them sort of fall into this, professional grudges, professional jealousy,
I love that stuff,
resentment.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, whatever. I haven't, as I said, I'm certainly not I'm not in a position to criticize because I haven't listened to that many. Just the ones that interest me. So, are there any other podcasts that you would recommend?
The Nerdist is great. That's probably my second favorite one. Todd Glass just started a podcast, which is really good. The Todd Glass Show. Comedy and Everything Else can be a bit long-winded, but I still like it a lot. Nikki Glaser and Sarah Schaefer's podcast is pretty good. You Had to Be There. The Pod F Tomcast is really good. I think those are all my favorite ones as far as comedy podcasts.
I was listening to one with Jimmy Dore, I guess it was.
Yeah, that's Comedy and Everything Else.
Maybe I'm confusing him with Pardo, but there's one guy that's like really discursive, and it just got on my nerves.
Was it Eddie Pepitone?
Yeah, no, it wasn't Eddie Pepitone. It's somebody like that in that age range or whatever. But it's just like he would just sort of like wander all over the place. And it's like eventually it's like, please get back to me, whatever. And then he was just sort of cut off and he would like break and whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's just my little pet peeve.
I've got to go in about 5 minutes.
Okay, so we did it for a while.
Yeah.
So I guess we can just bring it to a close. I had some more questions I wanted to ask, but
how
long did we go? How long did we go?
I'm not sure. It's been going an hour and 3 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
If you want to do 5 minutes more.
Oh yeah. Well, we can do 5 minutes more.
All
right. Your thoughts on the RVA scene in general? What does it lack, and what does it need? What does it need to take it to the next level?
It needs more showcase. We need to find a good place to showcase local talent. I think these shows that are at Cafe Diem, where we're getting to pair, talent that's at a national level with comedians that are local. I think that's really good. As far as exposing local comedians, I think that if we could get a place that was maybe a monthly showcase where it was a friendly room to comedy, that would be really great. I also think the Funny Bone could do a lot more to cultivate local talent, and I think it would be in their best interest to do that. I think they've started to, I've seen hints of them going in that direction recently, and I hope they keep going with it. And then I think a lot of it too is it's on the comedians to keep working and keep hustling and keep trying to get people out to shows, keep writing, to not take things for granted.
Well, speaking of podcasts, what's the future of the Future Moon radio show?
I mean, it's over. It was a good idea. We recorded a few.
You invest in some equipment. I mean,
yeah. Well, I still have the equipment, so that's good.
It's not like you can always use it somewhere else.
Yeah. It was really hard to. Jesse and I are on opposite schedules. He works during the day, and I work at night, and then trying to make that work. Also, the nights we have off, we're both usually doing comedy shows, so it's hard to do a podcast on those nights. And then also trying to match somebody else's schedule to it. It's that was kind of hard to do. So I should probably release the 2 episodes that I didn't. There's that, and then I also got a little discouraged because I didn't really think that I was we were at a level to deserve a podcast. That's probably just me being self-loathing though. But
Well, the only way to get better at podcasts is to do podcasts. So it's like,
very true. Yeah.
So you said you didn't want to do an open mic in Austin, but you had an interesting discussion, I thought, with Bill Metzger, where you said you didn't want to do an open mic in Austin because you just wanted to concentrate on performing.
Mm-hmm.
But Bill seemed to feel like doing an open mic in New York City was sort of a way to kind of build up a power base or to break into the scene. In other words, like if you do a show and then you bring people in and then they put you in other shows, it sort of allows you to kind of get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
So
maybe
Austin is different than New York. I don't know.
Well, part of it is I don't want to go into a new scene and be the new guy that's also trying to start a room, because I think that's kind of presumptuous, and I feel like you need to establish yourself somewhat before you try and do that. And if I could maybe see doing a showcase room in a year or something, once I know a lot of people, and I think that does help you get booked on shows if you have a show you run yourself. But running an open mic is a lot to deal with, and I'm not really interested in doing it there. And especially for the first year, I just want to be interested in doing everybody else's shows because there's already plenty.
That's how Hillary Clinton rose to power in the U.S. Senate.
Open mics?
Yeah. No, not being presumptuous, sort of working your way into the scene rather than trying to Bigfoot it at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Omari Brown said that John Reeves was trying to start an open mic in New York.
That'd be cool.
Which there are probably so many, it's like nobody cares. He's not being presumptuous. It's like...
Yeah, I mean, it is,
there's just so many other
I'm also
people.
talking about a scene I'm not immersed in, so it might be, if I go and there's a room for it and somebody wants it to happen, then I'm not going to say no to anything categorically. It's just not something that I'm not thinking I'm going to go to Austin and start a room.
Mm. Well, you've been one of the more entrepreneurial comics in Richmond, along, I guess, Kenny Wingle, Odyssey Michaels, Blake Midget, Brian Mann, 955 crew. When I say entrepreneurial, rather than wait around for something to happen, you actually made things happen. So, which is something,
I think it's important to do.
Something that seems to be kind of a character defect with comics is they don't follow, or some comics, is they don't follow through. They say, well, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. It's just sort of like, just tends to dissipate.
Yeah.
Which is like, has to do with excessive pot smoking or I don't know what it is, but it's like, it's annoying. It's like, I don't care whether they're going to do it or not do it, but it's like, it's annoying to me when they say they're going to do it and then they don't do it.
Yeah.
Especially when it involves me.
Yeah.
But that seems to be, I don't know what you can do about that. I just feel like maybe more people could have backed your play, so to speak, at Cafe Diem, but everybody's got their life to lead, I guess.
I mean, I think people have backed it pretty well.
Yeah, I feel vaguely guilty about kind of dropping off in the second year, but I wanted to catch up on the video. And as I said, depression is kind of something to deal with, and with you, I think you said depression makes you go out and do stuff. With me, it makes me sit at home and watch Netflix. Is that
no, I don't.
That
depression makes me want to sit inside and not leave.
Yeah, whatever. So that's something I occasionally deal with. So let's see. Actually, it looks like we pretty much. It looks like we actually got through all the questions. Oh, qualities that it takes to succeed in stand-up. What do you think are the qualities it takes to succeed in stand-up?
Creativity, obviously, perseverance, a thick skin, and I don't know if you have to be a loner, but I think to some extent you do. You have to be comfortable not being on your own, and you don't have a lot of people to rely on with stand-up except yourself at the end of the day. So I don't know. There's a lot, and I'm not really that successful, so I'm probably not the person to ask.
So, well, not from the standpoint of an enormously successful comedian, but just from the standpoint of you going back in time, say 3 years ago, and saying to your younger self, like, are there things that you would do or wouldn't do? Is there any tips that you would give your younger self now?
No, because it's made me what I am now. I mean, if I were talking to a younger comic, I would say you're going to need to wear blinders for the first year because you're going to probably suck, and there's never a shortage of comics who will say that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, you kind of have to persevere, and it's always a game of, ignoring what naysayers have to say and taking encouragement when you can get it and building on what you do.
All right. Well, we've been talking to Joe Hafkey, his exit interview as he leaves Richmond, Virginia for Austin, Texas. And thanks for taking the time to talk to us, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Great.
Awesome.
All right. So how long did it go?
112.